Hi, I'm Grady Collane in the CapeCod.com News Center, and this is Sunday Journal. I'm joined today by a special guest from Cape Cod 5. Do you mind introducing yourself for our listeners?
Absolutely, Grady. Matt Burke from Chairman and CEO of Cape Cod 5.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me in studio today for this conversation.
Yeah, great to be here. Appreciate it.
So we recently heard there's some news. There's a new partnership between yourselves and Fidelity Bank. We wanted to get you in, talk a little bit more about what opportunities that's going to open up, as well as a little bit more elaborating. For example, I wanted to ask you first and foremost is, what does this mean for the identity of Cape Cod 5? You mentioned that the name and brand is going to stay. So can you just elaborate more on how that maybe differs from what people might be expecting in terms of going public or other mergers and stuff like that? This is a bit different.
Sure. Yeah, very different. And I guess to start with, we are a mutual bank, which means we don't have any owners. We are a mission-driven community bank, and our profits go back into our mission of enriching the lives of our customers and communities. So as we looked at this, we've seen some other examples of this sort of thing happening in terms of mutuals partnering together for as a source of strength, because one of the things we're committed to our mutuality. You've seen mutuals that have gone public and then have, and then they're not around here anymore because they get sold. So we cannot be bought, we cannot be sold, and our mutuality is very important to us. So what this does, and it's also not a bank level merger. So when you hear the word merger, that's typically you're looking at two organizations combining. Ours is very different, where the two banks will continue to operate their own, brands, franchises, operations, leadership, and roles at the two respective banks will not change. And our holding company, so we've had our mutual holding company, which controls Cape Cod 5, Mutual Bank Corp. We've had now for about 12 years. So, not too much goes on at that holding company level. It's really all about controlling Cape Cod 5 and its mission and commitment to our region and ensuring that mutuality continues into the future.
Mm-hmm. Now, as well, you guys have, I believe, you hold $5.5 billion in assets with Cape Cod 5. After this, it's going to be $7 billion in combined assets with Fidelity Bank as well. You mentioned a few of the opportunities that's going to open up. Can you give a few examples of ways that this can be leveraged going forward, even if it's just long-term tentative plans at first?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot's changed, I guess, since March. The banking crisis, and there's a lot of pressure on banks. The nature of the interest rate hikes that the Fed has put in place to combat inflation, and we're doing well. We're strong. We're in a position of strength. From my view, just in terms of smaller mutual banks, we can find the right fit that aligns with our mission. Culture, this really represents an opportunity for us to continue to grow. Organic growth will be challenging. We've, for a long time, really relied on organic growth, expanding our footprint across, now end-to-end Cape, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and Plymouth and Wareham over the bridge. Those are growth markets for us, but just the nature of the pressure on our industry and pressure on all industries, businesses, consumers, just the nature of this tightening cycle that we're in, is we want to make sure that that we're here for a long time and we maintain that mutuality. So it really is about the alternative, and I think that's what a lot of organizations are doing, are saying, I need to cut back. I need to cut back people, benefits, closing branches, that sort of thing. Not something that we want to do. So as the lead bank in this partnership, this is really an opportunity to leverage our people. And, we do a lot of the same things, in terms of community banks, a lot of the behind-the-scenes operations, things like that. So an opportunity to really leverage our people, continue to grow, continue to develop our folks, and not kind of get into this, spiral of cutting as a means to maintain strength and profitability.
Mm-hmm. With the recent economic climate across the nation that we've been seeing, do our community banks getting hit a little bit harder, or do you think that they have a bit of an edge compared to some of the larger structures that we see?
Yeah, interesting dynamics. Just as you think about, having a diverse banking system is so important, and you see some of the largest banks in the country have benefited from the uncertainty with the banking crisis, this concept of too big to fail, those sorts of things. But when it comes down to supporting our communities, lending to the businesses in our communities, community banks and even regional banks, like very important in terms of economic vitality of our regions, and there's certainly this pressure on all of us, just the nature of obviously how interest rates have increased. Regional banks certainly have their challenges. I think public banks certainly have some additional complexity there, just in terms of their stock price being used as an indication of the bank's health, which a lot of times isn't necessarily the case, and that can influence negative trends with respect to outflows of deposits. And you see how quickly that can happen. The three bank failures that we saw earlier this year, how quickly money can move now. So that reputational risk and some of those things, that maintaining your strength at a time like this is really critical.
Mm-hmm. Now, as well, just another highlight, essentially, you mentioned kind of the community focus. As part of this partnership, Fidelity Bank is going to be forming a $5 million charitable foundation. Cape Cod 5 has already established a foundation, but can you just talk a little bit more about the importance of that, why that's necessary, and a little bit more what you guys already do?
Absolutely, yep. And that's a big part of what we do. When we look at really our mission, it's that community support. We give $1.7 million that we'll give this year. We have consistently over the years given about that amount through both our charitable foundation and through the support directly from the bank itself, in terms of sponsorships and grants and all those things that we do. And philanthropy a lot of times gets the headline, but when we look at it, all the different ways that we contribute, we have literally hundreds of our employees on boards of nonprofits, volunteering. The bank, every employee gets an allocation of hours over the course of the year that they can take for volunteering and that sort of thing. And other ways in which we deliver, financial know-how and things like that to our region and customer base through our Credit for Life fairs at the various high schools. I think we do every high school on, Cape, Nantucket, Vineyard, and even Southeastern Mass. We've grown our Credit for Life program there as well. So just an example of some of the things that we do, and we feel like this is going to be something that will ensure that we continue to be financially strong, so that we don't, again, have to start looking at expenses as a means to maintain our strength. We can continue that trajectory of growth.
Mm-hmm. Now, why Fidelity Bank? Do you guys have a similar mission statement, or just is it a local regional focus, or what was the decision there?
So actually, Ed Manzi is he's the chairman and CEO of Fidelity. He'll be my vice chair on the holding company when this deal happens. And I actually met Ed about 17 years ago. I was an auditor at Fidelity Bank. I worked for a public accounting firm who audited Fidelity Bank, and over the years I've gotten to know Ed pretty well. Have gotten to know their bank, and obviously you look at the reasons to do this. You talk a lot about obviously the financial strength and scale, things like that. But a prerequisite for us was there has to be alignment in terms of the mission, the culture, the values, and we feel like there's a great fit there. And and we view it as a positive thing that there's some geographic separation here, and probably not something that we would do in terms of having two banks serving the same market, that sort of thing. So it's actually a good thing from our perspective, but very similar, right, in terms of the mutuality, the commitment to their mission and community banking and those sorts of things.
Sounds good. Awesome that you're able to have this personal connection as well. So you, speaking of locations and stuff like that, 26 locations strong currently across the Cape and Islands region. That's including over the bridge. I imagine that it might be a bit of a tough ask, crystal ball kind of question, but did you have plans for maybe trying to expand further? Is it about consolidation right now? Just keep the ones you have strong? Will this open up a way to grow in the future? Would you like to see more over the bridge? Can you just elaborate more for us?
Oh, great question. And that's, again, organic growth, something that we've had a lot of success with over the years, and more recently, Martha's Vineyard and Wareham. We opened a banking center in Provincetown right at the beginning of the pandemic, so a little bit tough timing there, but that's been a very important market for us and one that we're committed to. And then Plymouth, as you mentioned, we've been in the Pine Hills for quite some time. We had a small lending and wealth management office up on the north half of Plymouth there. We're actually opening up a new banking center in the first quarter of this coming year, and that'll serve as a hub for really our activities that will happen over a broader radius than just Plymouth. But that's one of the things that we have continued to really focus on. As you think about our existing branches, fortunately we have some very strong, healthy banking centers. So it's not something that we're looking at. We need to go close X number of branches over the course of the years or anything of that nature. But continue to invest in digital means as well. That's really our focus. Is we want our customers to be able to interact with us, whatever is most convenient for them, whether it's to come into one of our branches or online mobile banking or number of different services that we can provide electronically.
That is very fascinating. If you don't mind, just broad strokes industry questions for a second. How did COVID change banking essentially for you guys, for banking at large across the nation?
Yeah, how did it change banking? How did it change our economy? Just in terms of the $7 trillion in stimulus that was injected into the economy and avoided obviously some pain during the pandemic. But what it left us with is obviously some very severe inflation. Continued, haven't made any progress with the inequality thing either. So, that's something that obviously we've been focused on in terms of the industry. It's really about this tightening cycle, in the pressure that's put on banks. And you think obviously our assets, any bank's assets are underwater, just the nature of obviously the rates on those assets. And now in this type of an environment, deposits are really the lifeblood of what ensures that banks continue to be viable, and you can see in those bank failures that was the issue. You have assets underwater, you lose your deposits, and that's it. So as we look kind of moving forward, we've really focused our efforts, on just strengthening our depositor relationships and expanding those and growing into new markets and things like that, because that's what's going to ensure that we're strong. And last year was the worst year for the deposit market. I think this has been tracking national deposit levels. So deposits were down, I think about 2.5%. Deposits are down another 2.5% so far this year. Our deposits are up 7.5%. So we've really bucked the trend there. Obviously, there's a number of different things that have, I think, made us successful. One of them was we didn't lag when they say rates move up, market rates move up. A lot of times banks will lag in terms of moving their deposit rates up. We moved them up pretty quickly in the beginning of the year, and that's where I think a lot of the success that we had came from. But it's also our 575 employees, everybody pulling together and doing their part to make that a priority, and I think that's where the success has come from.
Mm-hmm. Not to turn you into just an advice column real quick, but for people who might be a little bit kind of perturbed by what's going on across the nation, do you have general advice? Do you have words of wisdom or ways that the community focus kind of helps out, or just anything that you wanted our listeners to be aware of from the local community bank standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, obviously knowing your bank, being able to get in touch with someone at your bank that can help you at any given point in time is obviously critical. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on as a locally headquartered, community bank. Is we're our customers' neighbors, friends. And that's really, I think, what's important is making sure that you know the people, the institution, and that your needs are being met. And a lot of times it's hard changing, it's hard moving, but that's one of the things that really kind of you look at is a very important aspect of anyone's financial lives. And there's going to be more people under pressure as you think about moving into the future. The nature of how quickly rates have increased, and the fact that consumers and businesses, a lot of them haven't really felt it yet because they're locked in on their mortgage or car loan or a business. Generally, Most business loans reprice every 5 years, so that's something that as businesses get closer to reprice, and that's difficult because they're already under so much pressure as you think about the other impacts of inflation in terms of staffing, materials, all that sort of thing. And now you're saying the debt service on your financing is going to be increasing. So that's really a challenging one, and one that we've been focused on trying to help as many people as we can, as many businesses as we can.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Burke, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. It's been very enlightening about the whole process. Do you have anything else you want to highlight for our listeners, either related to the new partnership or general messaging for small business owners or consumers in general, while we still have you?
Well, thank you for that opportunity. I'd say, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help any of our local residents, consumers, businesses. Should be able to reach us pretty easily. So.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us for this segment of Sunday Journal.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Grady.
I'm Grady Colleen in the CapeCod.com News Center, and this has been Sunday Journal.